Well, hello. No, I am not Kevin O'Connell. I'm Diane Howard. I'm his chief counsel, and I am so sorry to be the person who has to express Kevin's heartfelt regrets. He was texting me last night. He's really sad, but he could not be here. He had a conflict that came up at the last minute. So he asked me to step in. Here I thought I was off the hook, just an attendee, just on a round table, but no. My role keeps changing. Every day is different on the Camino. So since I was here yesterday, want to kind of start by level setting about yesterday. I want to congratulate TS on his succinct keynote. I want to really congratulate all those moderators for keeping everybody on track yesterday, and the speakers for crisp delivery of timely research and information. It was the first time in all my years of involvement with this conference that I actually got to sit in one place and listen, and it was amazing. So I just really want to give you my appreciation. But I also, in particular, want to acknowledge the robust international panel yesterday afternoon. And I was thinking about that because for years we tried to get international participation more than just one or two parties. And what was different? You know what was different? The International Academy of Astronautics was involved this year. So thank you so much, IAA, for helping us finally bring in these voices. I think that we all benefit from that. So I want to speak to Kevin's broad points. Most of you, and please know, I got up at like 4:30 this morning and took his talking points and made them my talking points, but I'm going to read a lot because I haven't had time to really work it, so bear with me. So most of you are well aware of Space Policy Directive 3 and what it directs our office to do. SPD 3 was put in place to address a great deal of what we've been discussing here in Austin, to establish a capability for civil and commercial SSA notifications, and the dissemination of spaceflight safety data. While the set deadline for full operational capacity of our system is 2024, I think everyone in this room would agree that the sooner a dedicated system for commercial SSA notification is operational, the better. We want what we need, and we want it now. We here in this room know space debris and space safety have long been critical concerns. And now these issues are gaining traction nationally and internationally. Last week, 2 congressional hearings called attention to the problem of space debris. A few of the witnesses are here at this conference. All were effective in helping to raise awareness of the issues that we face and that we're committed to tackling together. These hearings are very welcome, but they're only the first step. There is an urgent need for funding and further action. Yeah, there I said it. We hear you. We know. So how do we move forwards from here? There's actually a lot of work on this issue. It's already going on across the U.S. government, but not only in the U.S. government. There's a lot of interaction between the government and industry and academia. Not enough with academia. I'll get to that. Many here are involved in one aspect or another, but I'm going to list some of these. I want to give you a sense of the big picture. So last December, the U.S. government released updated orbital debris mitigation standard practices. We're going to hear a little bit more about that on the roundtable that follows this talk. This was an interagency effort. It was led by NASA under the supremely zen leadership of J.C. Liu. But I want you to know it didn't stop there, because now our office has reconvened an interagency working group that is focused on the potential application of the ODMSP guidelines to commercial operations. And there's more to come on this, but industry will definitely be included. So for the last 2 weeks, multiple agencies have been taking part in copious at the scientific and technical subcommittee discussions in Vienna. And you heard a little bit about the long-term sustainability guidelines work that's been going on yesterday on both the security panel and the international. It's important that the U.S. continues its leadership in long-term LTS, that's what I'm used to saying, in LTS efforts going forward. And those U.S. leadership efforts were highlighted in Vienna over the course of the 2 weeks. There was participation by American companies and industry associations, the government, and it underscored the U.S. commitment across the board to ensuring that all nations can continue to benefit from outer space, all nations. Because we agree with the points made yesterday about capacity building. We acknowledge this need. As the global space industry grows, we need to ensure that new as well as established space actors have the knowledge and capabilities to operate safely in space. Let that sink in. I also want to address the issue of standards, which came up repeatedly yesterday. This was a common refrain. It was almost like a mantra or a cheer. Standards, standards, standards. But this is good, right? Because we're working on this as well. 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3, Commerce, along with state, the FAA, NASA, DOT, a lot of people were there. A lot of organizations were there. I mean, Dan Altroge presented on the SSC. Lots of people were there. And others that are here. George was there making some very succinct points. So this was the beginning of the next step in the work on standards. And this was a coordination meeting that was put on by ANSI, which is the American National Standards Institute. And they don't themselves develop the standards, but what they do is they help coordinate the development of the standards. And there are quite a few standard development organizations. So it's not that we don't have standards, it's that we have a ton of standards. And some of them, even with all those standards, are not addressing things that we need. But you kind of have to get a sense of what's there to figure out what you need and how to go forward. And some of these things are already in the international. So we need to be pulling from international into what we're doing here domestically, and then we also need to take leadership and go forward. So there right now isn't a coherent approach to that kind of synthesis. And so we, through NIST, which is part of Commerce, got involved with ANSI, invited everybody into the room, and we're right now looking at some good ideas, developing a roadmap for that synthesis, creating a portal so that, somebody, there are different levels, different TRLs, if you will, understanding what you need or what's already there to help a startup or a legacy company, whomever. But how can we put all of this in one place where it's accessible and usable? To have all the standards doesn't do any good if people can't access them and use them, right? So we are looking at ways forward for that work too. So I want to talk to you, that's part of what DOC is involved in out of the building, but let me talk to you a little bit also about what we're doing within DOC. So I know some of you have heard me speak before about the rich resources within the department. That's real. The Department of Commerce is incredibly diverse and structured. It's not completely hierarchical. It has bureaus, and these bureaus do a wide-ranging number of things, many of which deal with data and analysis. And not only that, we have NOAA, which operates the largest civil fleet, 18 satellites, which provide all kinds of important weather data. And they've worked on some of the kinds of challenges that we're undertaking here right now with a revamping, an evaluation of what we need for better SSA and how we go forward and do that. So we have a number of SSA initiatives underway. We're working with the cloud computing community that's within NOAA, because NOAA is beginning to move out on even more than what it already does. And what it does right now is awesome. Okay, so we're looking into how we can leverage that, because we have government rights. We're part of, NOAA's part of Commerce. We're part of Commerce. We're actually part of NOAA. We're also under NASDAQ. So we are increasing our ties to the SWPC, which is the Space Weather Prediction Center. And we recently welcomed a space weather detailing into our office. Actually, we welcomed two detailees from NOAA, one to help us with space weather and how we can use that as an analog for some of the work that we're doing, and another who has profound and deep experience working with international cooperation agreements, something else that came up yesterday. Not in my talking points, but let me just tell you that we're working on that. You know that we executed a declaration of intent with Kness back at IAC in October last year, and we're in the process right now of we've been drafting and working with them, negotiating an MOU that follows on, and that's alluded to in that declaration of intent. But it doesn't stop there. We've been approached by other countries as well. And some of what I heard in the international panel yesterday was speaking to how do we do that, and we've enlisted the help of this NOAA detailee, but also we have a detailee from NGA who's worked on these kinds of agreements. So how can we deconflict with the agreements that are in place with DoD, because we all respect one another's lanes, and that is what you need to do in order to work together constructively and appropriately. You need to know what your roles and responsibilities are. It helps. So let me go back to my talking points. So let's see. Candidly, this is probably why I digressed for a moment. So let me just talk about the budget realities. All right. They will limit what we can spend on commercial activities. It's true. But we still continue to engage with the very robust commercial sector, and we will find ways to continue to do that. For instance, we were the co-sponsors of a training with BlueStack and with AFRL back in December, which involved the commercial capabilities for SSA, and we're starting to plan for another one. So we're going to continue to find ways that we can do this. I mean, just because we don't have the budget that we had asked for, it doesn't mean that we can't do things and that we aren't. We can. And I will, off my talking points again, I will tell you, I mean, all of us, everybody in this room has faced challenges at one time or another. And you have a choice when you face a challenge. You can, go big or go home, right? Basically. So in this instance, what we've chosen to do, the secretary told us, move out. Go forward, see what you can do. When I did my master's long ago and far away, I titled it "Making Do with What You Have," with what we have. And so I'm going to say we're going to make do with what we have. We all need to do that because the time is now. Get back to the talking points. So there are a wide range of commercial capabilities coming into the market: sensors, analytics, visualization tools. We are planning a follow-on event to our 2019 request for information on commercial SSA activities and capabilities, and this follow-on will be mostly to update industry, but also to get updated from industry on emerging capabilities. So stay tuned. That'll get posted, and always visit our website because it's a really good source of information, and we do maintain that in real time. So we're also making good progress on establishing an open architecture data repository. We know it's the basis of the DOC SSA system. The key word is open. Okay? It will be cloud-based, highly flexible, it'll be scalable, it'll be a platform from which commercial operators will receive space safety notifications, but also have access to tailored commercial products. I think some of you have heard me talk about this in terms of an ecosystem or a marketplace, and so I'll use those words again. The idea here is not government versus commercial or instead of commercial. It's what we want to create, what we're working to create, is a capability that combines the publicly releasable portion of the DoD authoritative catalog with commercial SSA data, with operational ephemerides, with data analytics, and state-of-the-art visualization. Yeah, right? Perfect world. That's what we want, and that's what we're working toward. And we want it all combined in a modern operational concept for precise and timely warnings to private sector and international operators. There is just too much riding on the success of the space safety mission to continue to rely on old-fashioned notification systems. We need to employ a modern and efficient alerting mechanism that includes the right balance of human and machine capabilities. We hear you. We hear you, TS. We get it. So, I mentioned that we're working to create this capability now let me see how far I am. I'm doing well, okay. Now, through existing cloud capabilities within NOAA. So the first step there is to create a platform and to begin to populate it with various data sets that are now available to us. I said we don't have money, but that doesn't mean we don't have data that's available. There are some people that we've approached in the room and asked, will you, give us your specs and figure out how we can ingest that? And we also want to include space weather. So I loved yesterday that George gave a talk about, the duty to disseminate. There's been a lot that's gone on at the UN level, but also here domestically. It's part of what we do. It's part of our mission. So we want to include that. Where am I? Okay. And we plan to partner with agencies like NASA, because we want to incorporate other available space safety data sets. And we have discussions ongoing regarding the incorporation of those international civil space safety data sets as well. And those are, that is really the crux of why we're starting to look at how we can not just draft high-level MOUs that say we have an agreement to agree and we want to work with you, but how? How are we going to work with you? How do we ingest the data? How do we also provide it? So as the industry matures and the safety piece becomes increasingly important, the standards and the best practices are going to play a more prominent role. And I mentioned the beginning of our work with ANSI. Data standards are being addressed across government and academia, but there's so much more work to do. Industry has made significant strides in best practices, and the list of best practices laid out by the Space Safety Coalition is huge. It's a huge step in the right direction, so a shout out there. But it's not the only one. CONFERS is certainly really, that's not easy. To go out on a limb and try to articulate best practices about something that's in its most nascent stage, and everybody coming together and working together on this. This is a Kumbaya moment. I mean, seriously, think about it. This is a good thing. I don't want to go off on, I'm off the talking points again, but I don't want to go off on a bit of a spiritual rant, but I just want to tell you that there are things happening. I appreciate and understand the urgency that we feel, it's there, it's real. But just because you can't go as fast as you want doesn't mean that you can't go at all, or that where you're going and what you're doing isn't important and meaningful. We cannot lose heart. This is definitely not in my talking points, but we cannot lose heart. We have got to really, it's not a fight we're fighting, but we're not fighting a good fight. We're doing good work, and we're doing it together, and we're doing it across different sectors of this space sector that we love. We have a community, and our community is functioning, and we're dealing with tough stuff, and we're doing it with dignity and grace and respect for one another, and that is really awesome, and I just want to give us all a shout out, really. Okay, so, booyah, double booyah, that's right. So, we need to keep sharing our practices, our best practices. We need to go out on a limb and do it, right? We need to get involved in things like the ANSI work. We need to share it in forums like this, because those kinds of that kind of interaction and the kind of robust space safety practices and ultimately standards that are the outcome of that kind of conversation, not only are they going to encourage innovation and international participation and transparency, but anybody who knows anything about groupthink knows that if you have a more diverse participation, you come up with a better outcome. So we have to keep doing that. Yesterday, TS discussed the importance in data and data processes, and he couldn't be more correct. This is precisely why SPD3 put the on-orbit notifications for private sector and international operators at Commerce. Because there are some key reasons for that. First, there is economic value in taking an open, transparent approach. Nations will always defend their national security space assets, but our mindset must adjust to a world where the future of space is overwhelmingly commercial. You can hear Kevin, right? It's overwhelmingly commercial. That's a definite Kevin talking point. But second, space won't be safe unless domestic and international operators trust the data they are given. So we really do need to be working on new trust mechanisms. It's not a simple problem, but fortunately, we're not the only ones working on it in commerce. Academia is energized in this area. We're seeing more and more research that's helping inform our work. Just last week, our Deputy Secretary was out in Boulder, Colorado, engaging with the industry and academia and focused on the advance of space commerce. And we're working on finalizing a couple of CRADAs with UT. We support more robust engagement with academia. We need it. Mariba drove this point home in his testimony last week. Yes, we need everyone involved, all of us. There are important parallels between where we are in SSA and the histories of GPS and remote sensing commercialization. Security mindsets have to change in order to maximize economic benefit, and in this case, space safety. I'm convinced that we're in the early stages of that process, one that will ultimately lead to the creation of wholly new space safety services, which is another SPD3 mandate for DOC, and improved space safety. The bottom line is, there is a lot of good work being done across government, industry, and academia to solve the urgent space debris problem, but it's only a start. There's still a lot of work to do, and we all need resources and support from each other to get it done. So I'm looking forward to more productive discussion and hopefully some Q&A, and I want to thank you for your time. And the time is up. The time is now. So I knew I'd find a use for this lovely little sign. So thank you very much for your attention.
Check, baby, check, baby. Okay.
Good morning, Victoria Sampson, Secure World Foundation. Diane, I wanted to ask, we've heard that the Space Enterprise Summit, which was held last June, might be held again this June, and this time it's going to be mostly a commerce production. Last year was state and commerce. I'd like to hear more about what you guys have planned for it, if it's actually happening, and anything you could share.
Absolutely.
Including dates.
Yes, I can give you dates, and I can tell you also it's not really a primarily commerce. It's that last year state hosted it, and this year we will host it, but it's still very much a co-chaired effort. It's a combined effort. So last year we had the Space Enterprise Summit 1.0, and this year we're going to have Space Enterprise Summit 2.0, and it's going to be on Monday and Tuesday, June 29th and 30th. It will be at the beautiful campus in Alexandria, where we have the U.S. Patent and Trade Organization, and when I tell you, it's lovely, and we can fit a significant amount of people there. They really have the infrastructure that we have a beautiful library, but we're an older building, and of course, State has that amazing situation on the rooftop. But we're going to give you our best as well. So look for that. There will be more information. First of all, we're going to post it in the Federal Register pretty soon, so look for that. I mean, we have a requirement to do that, and the link for that Federal Register notice will again be on our website. So look, go to the Office of Space Commerce, and you'll find us. Thank you. That was a good question. Informational. Anybody else?
Good morning, Diane.
Good morning.
It's Brian Flewelling with Exoanalytic. So we've heard the arguments from folks within NOAA that focus on space weather, and they do a pretty good job telling the story about how the events that they're concerned about monitoring will impact critical national infrastructure. To what degree, or does Commerce have a position on the space objects that we want to be able to track and protect through going through SPD3 is also protecting critical national infrastructure, but in space? There are certain organizations that are looking at are space-based assets potentially supporting things that are increasingly critical national infrastructure, and would that help in terms of the arguments that are being made Capitol Hill and other places?
I'm not quite sure I completely understand your question, Brian. So you're asking me how, the NOAA fleet is going to protect.
So
Because it does. I mean,
yeah.
first of all, NOAA provides to the Air Force weather information, which is not space weather, but just weather information. But then we also have SWPC, which
Right.
provides space weather. And when we're talking about, drawing upon NOAA and its pretty fearsome capabilities with regard to space weather, but also weather writ large. I mean, the EPIC, Earth Prediction Information Center, is amazing. But we're talking about looking. Clearly, the analytics are different between weather and SSA. But what we're looking at, ingesting data from multiple sources, some of which are international, and bringing them into a cloud situation and then providing predictive analytics. So that's what I'm talking about. So not so much creating a whole other infrastructure, but utilizing that as an analog, but also utilizing the results of that already existing analog and then incorporating that into what we build. Did that help? No, they don't. But so that's a very good point, Brian. Yes, we are definitely drawing on the fact that there are other entities within commerce that are definitely better funded than we are. And this is one of the reasons I said, you can go big or go home. So we are not going home. What we're doing is we are looking within and saying, okay, this is part of your mandate, and we're all in this together, and you need your satellites. And so, hey, help us help you. So yes, that's exactly what we're doing. Good.
So,
Booyah.
So if I can jump in a whole of government approach, that's actually critical infrastructure falls within Department of Homeland Security, and we're actually going to be, we aerospace are going to be working with them to give them some educational resources regarding space debris and that sort of thing in the very near time frame. So I just wanted to clarify that maybe falls outside of commerce, but there's a part of Department of Homeland Security does deal with that. So that.
Thank you. Yes.
We have time for one quick question if somebody has one. No?
I answered all your questions.
Merci
Oh, my
beaucoup.
God.
All right. Merveilleux. Merveilleux. Thank you.